Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. It's a new show that we have talking about wellness, talking about how we can look at different things that keeps a leader healthy and keeps a leader wise. When we talk about sort of wellness, right, there's really six different dimensions to wellness. It's better health, it's better fitness, it's better nutrition, it's better appearance, right? How you look and how you take care of yourself. It's better sleep, and ultimately it's also better where sort of mindfulness and the ability to be calm, to be present, to be here in the now. And one of the things that's very interesting, I think, is that as I was talking to different people, folks in nutrition, folks in health, I came across a very interesting gentleman called Piyachai. And Piyachai essentially works with a guy called Wim Hof. And what I find fascinating about Wim Hof is that Wim Hof cannot get sick. He has immunity or such high immune systems that he is immune to sicknesses. And I'll get Piyachai shortly to join us in a little bit to share with us. So let's welcome Piyachai Teo to the show. Piyachai, welcome. Welcome to this segment on Wellness Wednesday, where every Wednesday we dig in and we drill down and we try to find out some tips, some tricks, some insights on wellness. Tell us a bit about yourself, Piyachai.
Hey, what's up, Roshan? Thanks for having me, man. So I am a certified Wim Hof method instructor. I am a breath instructor, and I'm also a life coach. So over these past few years, I've been helping a lot of like CEOs, leaders, people with cancer, people with anxiety, people with depression, really reclaim their health just by learning a very simple skill, which is learning how to breathe, right? So I know it sounds funny to a lot of people when they first hear about this because, like, what do you mean by learning how to breathe, right? I'm already breathing, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Like, for all of you here listening, right? I'm sure all of you are breathing right now. But what is interesting over these past few years is I've learned that in reality, even though everybody is breathing, majority of people aren't actually breathing correctly, which is what is leading to a lot more serious health problems, such as like, again, like stress, anxiety, depression, cancer. All these numbers are on the rise now. And again, in reality, it's because they're just not breathing properly.
Yeah, and you shared with me some very interesting insights a couple of days ago, right? When you dunked me into the ice. But we'll get to the ice pit in a bit. But one of the things you told me is that our body is meant to be in a sort of parasympathetic state,
That's right.
but we never get into that state. Tell us about the different states, and why it's important for us to get into this state of relaxation and rest that you talk about.
That's right. So in reality, one of the biggest drivers of human behavior is actually their nervous system. And their nervous system is basically what shows what states people are in, right? So because the world has changed so dramatically right now, majority of people are constantly living in a sympathetic state. So what is the sympathetic state? Basically, when you think about the nervous system is basically broken down to two main states, right? And if you to think about it, to really understand it easier, you just have to think about like cavemen, right? So originally, human beings, we used to be cavemen, and as cavemen, there were only two things that we needed to do, right? The first thing that we needed to do is we need to go out of the cave to hunt for food. And this is also known as the sympathetic state, where in this state, there is perceived danger in our external environment. And because of that, all our energy is focused on the external, meaning all the energy goes into our muscles, where our muscles will all tense up, our pupils will start dilating, adrenaline will start running, because you want to be in this state, right? Because in the sympathetic state, when you are outside of the cave, you are ready to run, you are ready to hunt, you are ready to react to any sort of danger around you. And again, this is also known as the sympathetic state or the stressed out state. And then after, hunting for food, after getting your catch, after getting your prey, what do cavemen do? They normally go back into the cave to rest, to relax, to eat and recover, right? So the biggest problem right now is that the danger has evolved. So previously, as cavemen, didn't last very long, right? You run from a tiger and maybe you run for a few minutes. So you're in a sympathetic state for a few minutes, and then after that, you rest and relax. Whereas nowadays, the tiger has evolved into this
Smartphones, yeah.
this beautiful, like, how many of you have this right in your pockets, and how much time are people spending on their phones right now? You see, because the world has changed nowadays, people, when they go to work and they hunt for food, right? They're hunting for their food, they're working hard for their food. But what happens after work? They go into their cars and they're still connected. They're looking at their social media, they're replying their WhatsApp, they're still replying their emails, all the way till they get home. Then what do they do when they get home? They start watching the news. They start seeing the war in Ukraine. They start seeing the stock market crashing. They start worrying about their future, their careers, their family, their relationships, their finances. And again, because of all this perceived danger, majority of people are constantly living in the sympathetic state. They aren't able to shut down anymore. So their nervous system is constantly wired to be
Mm.
in a stressed out state, which is why I'm sure right now, if I asked you, like, how many of you are having trouble sleeping, right? Of all of you who are watching right now, how many of you are having trouble sleeping? Like the inability to just go to bed and rest, right?
Knockout.
And just knock out, right? A lot of people are having this issue whereby they want to go to bed. They're so tired, they're so drained. And by the time they go to bed, they just can't sleep. They're just lying there and they're rolling around for a few hours. And by the time they eventually go to sleep, they wake up and they're still feeling tired, right? Because again, their nervous system is just not able to transition itself to a parasympathetic state, which is
Mm.
why, again, a lot of people are struggling with this. So I was having a chat with even Shashi earlier, right? So he was sharing with me like, oh, B, I'm having trouble sleeping. You know, I'm still rolling around bed. I have trouble sleeping. I was like, why? Why is this? And then so I asked him this simple question, like, okay, if I asked you to go to sleep right now, okay, you're in this room, in this beautiful room, it's dark, and I asked you to go to sleep. But at any time as you're about to go to sleep, somebody's gonna slap you. Okay, what are the chances that you're able to sleep peacefully? Like,
Right.
let me ask you this, right, Roshan? Like, if
Yeah.
if I had said to you, okay, Roshan, go to sleep right now, but again, at any point in time, somebody's gonna slap you. What's the chances of you getting a good night's rest?
Very low, lah, right? I mean, ultimately, will be so high. You'll be on a high alert, lah, right? I assume, and that's what you're saying. The smartphone does to us, right? We are
That's
always
right.
we're listening to chimes, that the WhatsApp chime and the different notifications that keep us on this high alert, right?
That's
And
right.
I thought it was very interesting, right? Because I mean, what you say is something that is very common, right? I mean, so many people tell me they struggle with sleep, and when we start looking at ultimately, the six dimensions of wellness, right? When we look at better health, part of it is also better sleep, right?
Mm.
And if you start looking at the spend, right? A lot of people spend money on sort of the health aspect, with vitamins and other things, but very little on the sleep aspect, except maybe in China where people struggle to sleep. But it's a big problem, and sort of based on the Wim Hof methodology, right? And we'll talk a little bit about Wim Hof in a bit. But you believe that by breathing in the correct manner, you're able to put yourself or lull yourself, I guess, into a parasympathetic state, right? Which is the rest and relaxation state. How does that work?
That's right, right? So just think about it. So when you are feeling different emotions, when you are experiencing different emotions, when you are angry, when you are happy, when you are sad, when you are relaxed, when you're frustrated, when you're happy, are you breathing the same way or are you breathing differently? Right? So what do you think? Are you breathing the same way or are you breathing differently?
I know I breathe differently, right? I mean, for me at least, it's a fact.
Mhm.
But I assume you you will tell us.
Yeah, that's right, right? So you're breathing differently. And so that's here's the greatest insight of all. If different states and emotions that you feel could lead to different breathing patterns, then different breathing patterns could also lead to different states. So what that means is that at any point in time when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling frustrated, then you're probably breathing a certain way. And at any point you want to change the way that you feel, all
Mhm.
you need to do is, again, just change the way that you breathe, right? So when you want to relax, just breathe the way you need to actually relax, which is again the power of conscious breathing. And is why breathing right now, if you see globally, it is one of the fastest um, growing industries within the health industry itself. It's like one of the fastest growing phenomena because it is something that people can do very naturally, where you don't need to rely on drugs, you don't need to rely on medications. You're literally
Can do
relying
it.
on your own personal power.
Ability. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
That's right.
Yep. And you know, I found it very interesting, right? The different ways you breathe. I mean, one. I mean, maybe you can give us some examples of how we get into a relaxed state sometimes naturally without even thinking about it. Let's say after an exam
Mhm.
or a tough assignment where we just completed, right? I mean, you mentioned that to me in the past, right?
Yeah.
You wanna just share that illustration?
Yeah. So if you really think about it, right? So one of the single most natural ways that we breathe that a lot of people actually subconsciously do is they take a sigh of relief, right? So see how many of you have done exams before? You know, when you're doing your exams and you finally finish your final exam, what is the very first thing that people do when they finish that final exam? Right? They take that deep breath in and they go, and then they let it all go. Right. And then after that, they burn the books and celebrate and dance and party and so on and so forth. Right. But why do people do this? Because if anything, it is like days, if not weeks, if not months of stress and pressure that they're putting on their minds and their bodies. And eventually, finally, when the final exam is over, when all of that is done, they're able to let it go. So they take that deep breath and then they just let it all.
I already feel so relaxed hearing you do that.
Yeah, but it's true, right? Similarly, when you're stressed, right? How many of you, when you're stressed, you suddenly realize, when you're very stressed, you suddenly go like, why? Because it's the brain and the body's mechanism of coping with stress, of letting that stress go. So, like what you learned earlier, what I shared with you the other day is that if that is the case, if that
Mm.
is the mind and the body's way to naturally down regulate itself, to naturally let the stress go, then why not do it more often?
Yep. Yep.
You know?
And so one of the things I guess, and we'll talk about this, is that one aspect of really getting into this relaxed state, which takes away your anxiety, your stress, and this sort of burden that we sort of naturally place on ourselves unconsciously, is breathing. Another way, and let's talk a little bit about Wim Hof, right? So this guy Wim Hof, he cannot get sick, right? He cannot get sick, right? They inject him with E. coli, they inject him with COVID, they inject him with all kinds of stuff, and they cannot get sick. And one of the things, and you've met Wim Hof, you were taught by Wim Hof, you sort of disciple tutelage from Wim Hof, and I see some of the comments coming out. People say, "Hey, Mr. Teo," and I see Maverick says, "Hey, Piyachai Teo, the bread master," or the Wim Hof master, right?
Hey,
So
man.
tell us a bit about Wim Hof. Tell us a bit about Wim Hof and why can't he get sick? And Wim Hof talks about three things, right? Breathe right, you know,
That's right.
go into extremes, cold, hot, especially
Cold
cold,
exposure.
and
Yeah.
then the last one is a mindset, right? And it's kind of reading through
That's
some of
right.
the things that Wim Hof does, and you teach this, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff, and people like Hari Iskandar and others who have gone through your sort of program of breathing. And
Yeah.
the net result is you haven't got COVID, and touch wood, of course.
That's true, of course.
And likewise, you see your immunology sort of improve. So tell us about Wim Hof, and tell us about what's the whole methodology, breathing, and then the second part of ice baths, and the next piece.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know who Wim Hof is actually this Dutch guy, and for a long time, he was actually just known to be a daredevil, like a stuntman. And in till date, he's broken over 26 world records. And some of the world records that I was really fascinated by from his story is that he managed to climb up Mount Everest in just his shorts, right? So Mount Everest, the coldest, the highest mountain in the
Yep.
world.
No shirt at all.
No shirt, no jacket, right? I go for winter. I go to the UK for winter, and I'm like 4 layers. I'm not even climbing a mountain, and I'm like feeling so cold, right? When Wim Hof, however, another world record I really love is he managed to run a full marathon in the desert without drinking any water. Right. And again, imagine that. Like, I go for a 5 km run, I'm drenched, I'm thirsty, I need to drink lots of water. But this guy didn't need to drink any water. And again, the most powerful thing about Wim Hof's story is that he shares that he cannot fall sick again. Right. And the best part is he shares that whatever he can do, anyone else can do it.
Right. Because he has trained, and I think, and this is a great part of the story. Right? He got scientists to study him, and of course they say he's a freak, but he managed to replicate this with 12 and 20. I mean, so many other people can climb up the mountain barefoot, can swim in the Arctic, can be in the Sahara and run a marathon without water, and do all the same stuff that he has done, which is fascinating. And he attributes it to practices that he does daily, right? Which is try to figure out how to get your breath right. And let's talk about the second part, right? Ice baths, right? Just as some of you may see, I actually subjected myself, together with my co-founder Hui Ming, to this ice baths just last weekend, right? So Piyachai was over, and we all dunked in, and we're all smiling, right? But tell us about the science behind the ice baths.
So I know that an ice bath sounds really scary, but there's so many benefits to actually doing the ice bath. And in reality, there are a few main benefits, right? First of all, after doing a lot of research, they showed that by doing an ice bath, you're able to reduce inflammation, which is not new, which is why like all the athletes, the top athletes, if you're thinking about, the LeBron James, Cristiano Ronaldo, the top athletes in the world, after every game, they're always doing an ice bath. Why? Because it helps reduce the inflammation in their body, right? So that's one big benefit. The second benefit is when you go into the ice bath, what you're doing is you're actually training all your blood vessels to become stronger, right? So you're not just getting stronger externally in terms of your muscles, but now you're internally strengthening yourself, like your blood vessels, making your blood circulation better, making your cardiovascular system a lot stronger. They've also shown recently with research that by doing an ice bath, your dopamine level increases by 300%. Your circadian rhythm, which is what helps you sleep better, resets by doing the ice bath. And one of the greatest benefits I feel about the ice bath is the psychological benefit of learning how to actually overcome your fears. Overcoming some of the most stressful points is like you've experienced it the other day, right? I'm sure you can agree with me that doing the ice bath is one of the most stressful, one of the most painful experiences that you can go through, because like something could happen to you, like there's hypothermia, or like we've seen them. I mean, a lot of people have watched the Titanic, so there's a lot of fear there. But when you can learn to go through the ice bath, when you can learn to calm yourself down, to relax yourself within the ice bath, then whatever stressful situation that comes up in the future will be very easy. It'll be a lot easier. Yeah.
So let me just show you a quick video of what took place a couple of days ago.
One, step in. Sit. And catch your breath. All right. Long exhalation. Long. No. Catch your breath. Good. In. Relax as you inhale. Relax your neck. Relax your shoulders. Good. Deep breath. There you go. Slow it down. Slow the breath down. In with the nose. Out with the mouth. In with the nose. Out. Yeah. Long exhalations. Good job. Long.
So obviously that went on for about 3 minutes. But and as you said at the start, everyone tensed up, and trying to looking at the scientific research behind it. What you say is absolutely true, right? I mean, there's a lot of scientific proof that says when you regulate your body up and down, you sort of kick in. Your immune system sort of kicks in, right? And forces, or at least it starts to kick in a way, in a big way, and that sort of enables you to build up your immunity for many different things. So I think that's fantastic. Now the last part, with Wim Hof is about mindset. Can you just share a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so it's about the mindset. At the end of the day, ultimately, the mind is the greatest driver of human behavior, right? Anything and everything that somebody does, somebody experiences, the emotions that we feel, they're all just driven by our mind. So ultimately, if in your mind you've already given up, then chances are going through the experience, you will never be able to get through it, right? So when he talks about mindset, it's a lot about the commitment of knowing and understanding just how powerful the mind actually is. So right, if you really deep dive into the whole powers of the mind, there's so many things, right? Which is why everybody always says it's always 90% is psychology, right? Only 10% is really strategy. And it's the same thing here. If you go in with the right mindset, just understanding, okay, you know what? I can do this. I have the power to do this. I have the ability. I am strong. And then when you go in with that mindset, then you can again just achieve anything.
Right. And you can also use your mind to kind of turn away diseases or turn away sort of illnesses, right? How's
right.
that happen? I mean, it sounds almost like wow, sci-fi. I mean, it sounds very fictional, but
Yeah.
you've seen it, right? And scientists now have sort of looked at Wim Hof and all his followers and said, "Whoa, it's true. The mind has the power to negate illnesses, right?" How does that work?
So this one comes a little bit more into epigenetics already, right? So in terms of, so scientists have discovered that when people experience different emotions, they express different DNA expressions. But when they can learn to change their mind, when they can learn to create new emotions, create new visions, then suddenly they are able to activate new DNAs. And with the right emotions, so the key again is the right emotions, positive emotions such as love, gratitude, right? They showed that people are able to express new genetic expressions, which actually help them fight illnesses. And again,
Right.
this is the biggest breakthrough that is happening.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Dr. Joe
And
Dispenza, yeah.
yes, and you're right. I mean, I've been reading some of the work. I mean, there's a great book called Lifespan by David Sinclair, who talks a little bit about how we are experiencing a disease called aging. I mean, he believes strongly that aging is actually a disease. Our bodies are built to last 200-300 years, but because of all these things, right? The stresses, the trauma, the sympathetic state that we're in constantly, and not the inability to get to parasympathetic, the sugar levels, the nutrition, the issues that we have with processed food, and so many. I mean, it's a bulk of things, right? It's causing us to age, right? And I just want to hit some of the questions that people have. I mean, that Thomas says he's learning a lot. Awesome. Thanks, Thomas, for tuning in. There's a question from Wax who asks, how often would you recommend us to do this ice bath?
So
I know
I
you
would
mentioned
say,
to me. Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
minimum, you should do it at least once a week.
Wow.
right? So that in terms of like your immune
Minimum.
system getting stronger, yeah, minimum. Okay, so in terms of immune system getting stronger, they showed that the effects last for just about 6 days, right? Just over 6 days. So again, if you do the ice bath at least once a week, that would be great. But like the more you do it, the better. So if you do it every day, it's also great because doing the ice bath also increases your metabolic rate. It helps you burn sugar faster. It helps you activate your brown fat. So you'll just look a lot healthier and a lot better if you do it every day.
Fantastic. Dr. Wimmy says he's amazed to learn this, this trick. And Wimmy, you got to come over to my house and we'll ice bath you. Seems to be the trend now. I got a question from Sashi who asked, when you first started doing this, what was your biggest challenge to let go and do? And I'm not sure whether it's related to your story of why you got into this in the first place.
When I first started doing this, what was the biggest challenge for me to just let go? What was the biggest challenge? I would say smoking, actually. So what's interesting is I used to be a really heavy smoker. I used to smoke at least 1 pack of cigarettes every day because I was just really stressed, right? And what was very cool about this whole thing was, so it was initially at the start, it was counterproductive because I was learning how to breathe, but I was still smoking at the same time. So I was like getting healthier and I was getting sick at the same time.
So you negate it, so you're neutral, right?
Yeah, I was neutral, right? I was at least neutral, not negative anymore, right? But what was cool is that the more I did it and the more I started learning how to breathe, I realized it was very similar of why I was smoking. Because if you know any smokers or anybody who smokes, one of the reasons why they love smoking is because in the middle of the day, amidst of all their chaos and work or whatever they're going through, they're finally taking a few minutes for themselves to slow down and take deep breaths. So if you see anybody who takes a cigarette, who has a cigarette, what do? They hold a cigarette, they look at it, they're very mindful, they're very present, then they take slow breaths in, slow breaths out, and they're finally taking that deep breath, right? It's like a reminder for them to take that deep breath. So again, the more I started doing it, the more I was able to actually let this habit go.
I'm going to show a couple of reels. So we've got, very famous people, Pete Yong, Harry Iskander, and others who have actually gone through this process with you. And one of the things I think you're working with Leaderonomics and other organizations to sort of ensure that people live longer, people live healthier, people are less stressed, people are able to let go. We want to bring more love, more gratitude, more hope into the lives of people. So I just want to watch the process, right? It starts with breathing. It goes on to expose your body to this tremendous pressure of ice and heat and so on and so forth. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. But then it also goes to the ability to be able to manage your mind. So here's a quick short video of some of the folks that actually have done this.
Enormous, instantaneously.
right. So Piyachai, as we sort of close off this piece, I know you're trying to get as many people in Malaysia, the corporates, the organizations, and so on, and we'll put some information on how they can get in touch with you and get these programs in their organizations. But what final piece of advice would you bestow to us this day? In terms of enabling us to eat better, breathe better, sleep better, and just be allow ourselves to live our full potential, right? I mean, to not be 80 or 90 years old and haggard and unable to live life, but to be 100 and still be able to run and do crazy stuff. I mean, I have this goal because when I looked at the 100-meter world records, right? At 50 years old, I got shocked. A 50-year-old is running 100 meters at like 12 or 13 seconds. That's the world record, right? I'm like, dude, I'm not going to break that, right? I don't think I can even do that now, right? And then I looked, okay, a 90-year-old is doing it in 70s, or a 100-year-old is doing it in 17 seconds. That's pretty tough, at 100. So I said 105. It's about 23 seconds. I think I can break that, right? So but I want to do that, right? And I think all of us have different ambitions and different goals. But to do that, we need to live right. We need to be energy, have that energy and have that capability, be full of love and gratitude and be emanating energy, right? Not just usurping it, but also emanating it. So what sort of advice would you leave us with as we close out this show for today?
So honestly, at the end of the day, that if you want to really master life, right, not just your health, but life, and truly enjoy life to its fullest potential, then there are just two things that you will need to master. One is your breath, because your breath really determines everything. It determines how much energy you have. It determines what emotions you're feeling. It determines how strong your cells are, your immune system is, your nervous system is. So really, if anything to take away, breathing is what determines everything, like how you feel, how well you sleep, how much energy you have. And the better you breathe, the more you're able to feel great, right? And then the second thing to master is to master your mind, because if your mind is working against you, then everything that you do is going to be difficult. But if you learn how to make your mind work for you, then everything becomes easy, and then you're able to truly enjoy every minute of every day, regardless of how stressful any situation may be. So these are the two things I would really recommend anyone to do, and it's so simple.
That's it's been an awesome conversation. I super excited. It's breathing, it's mind, and I think the other thing is extremes to some extent enable you. I mean, the intensity of an ice bath enables you to just kick you up. I mean, I started doing this. I started having not ice but cold showers every morning when I wake up, and I thought that was good. But when you put me through these the sort of the ice baths that we went through, that was really a whole different level of capability and took a lot more of effort and willpower to be able to do this. So everyone, every Wednesday at this same time, same place, we'll be bringing you tips, tricks, insights on wellness. We'll be looking at the 6 different dimensions, health, fitness, nutrition, appearance, sleep, and mindfulness. And the best part is, Piyachai has done it. I've done it. Harit Iskandar has done it. We've seen so many different people. It's not something that is unattainable. It's not something that is out there and far that, it's only these type of people can do this, right? A smoker like Piyachai, who's now a converted non-smoker and immune to so many different elements out there. I think we all do this, and I think for me, right, I brought all my friends over to my place. I brought Piyachai, right, and then I brought all my friends over, and they're like, "Why are you bringing me? Why are you doing this to me? Why are you?" I'm like, "Look, I can live to 100, and that's great. But when I'm 100 and all of you are gone, I've got no friends to hang out with, and I don't want to hang out with my kids and irritate them. I want my own friends to be there. So my own motivation is that, as I age or hopefully I don't, as we grow into this next era of our life, and as people sort of move on to the next world and move on to heaven or wherever they're meant to move, I still want, if I'm still around, I still want my friends there. And so I gather a couple of my friends and say, you guys we're gonna eat better, we're gonna live better, we're gonna breathe better, we're gonna think better, we're gonna grow together, and we're gonna have fun and fulfill the full of life and what life has given us to the very end, to the last breath, right? So that's my motivation. That's why we're doing Wellness Wednesday. I want you guys, my friends out here, my family, everyone, right? Let's all live this full, blessed life, right? So, Piyachai, final words as we close this show.
No, I totally love it. Actually, like when you share that with me, I think that is actually in reality the final secret to having that happy life. Finding the good friends, the community to actually enjoy life with. Because what is the point of living another 1,000 years if you're just gonna do it alone, right? So I really love that, and I think find that tribe, find your community, find people who would push you to be the best version of yourself. So again, Roshan, thank you so much for that. You really inspired me in so many ways, and I love these conversations with you.
And thank you for introducing Wim Hof to our lives. Someone I've been following for many years, and to have an official person in Asia to be able to bring the Wim Hof methods to us at our doorstep. So we'll look forward to seeing you in a couple more episodes, hopefully in the future. But every Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday, we'll be talking fitness, wellness, health, nutrition, sleep, and hopefully we'll all be able to live long in a happy and prosperous state. Have a great Wednesday, everyone, and we will have a blessed week ahead. Bye-bye.